back to Brian's Beat.
Hercules, hero of song and story. Hercules, winner of ancient glory. Fighting for the right, fighting with his might. With the strength of 10 ordinary men. Hercules, people are safe when near him. Hercules, only the evil fear him. Softness in his eyes, iron in his thighs. Virtue in his heart, fire in every part of the mighty Hercules.
That part, iron in his thighs. Hour 2 of Brian's Beat. I'm Brian, glad to be with you. Saturday morning, per the usual, foul weather in our backyard. Rain could be ending in the afternoon, but don't expect the temperature really to get up past 61, 62, 63 degrees. In fact, 59 in Freetown, 60 in Bourne, and 60 in New Bedford. And thank you, SouthCoast Towing, for making the WBSM app free for folks to download. And I got to tell you, the sound on that app, it is absolutely phenomenal. Okay, hour 2. Oh yeah, before we continue, monthly fee RX brings us the Brian's Beat quote of the day. If you're spending less than $20 a month for prescription drugs, great. If not, then our monthly fee RX service might be a good option for you. Check for yourself at monthlyfeerx.com. And the Brian's Beat quote of the day, since it's World Gratitude Day, thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your kindness. Couple of really odd stories from this week. You may have heard about them. One really caught my attention because where I happen to live in Dartmouth is in between both of these places. Earlier during the week, actually last Saturday, a woman by the name of Kathy walked out the front door of her home on Old Fall River Road to get some packages at her mailbox. At the mailbox, she says she encountered a coyote about the size of a German Shepherd. And she was bitten by the coyote. This is what she said. This is what she told the Standard Times. I made it to about right here, and I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I had to kick it twice, and I had a leg brace on because I dislocated my hip. Then it ran down the street. My neighbor across the street saw it. So because she was bit and the coyote broke the skin, this woman, Kathy Normore, is going through the rabies shot protocol. Whew. In fact, they said that she had been exposed, they being medical experts at Toby Hospital, she had been exposed to rabies. Doesn't mean she's infected, but she has been exposed to it. So, in my life, when I say encountered, I have seen, none have ever approached me. But I've been, let's say, within 20 yards of coyotes and certainly foxes. I used to live on a street that was called Fox Run Terrace. Why do you think they called it Fox Run Terrace? You're right. And maybe you get immune to the fact that you live in an area where there are coyote, where there are fox, and every once in a while you hear a rabbit or a squirrel yelping as a larger animal gulps it down. But this is frightening. All right, so that was Old Fall River Road. Old Westport Road, which is the street where UMass Dartmouth is. Another coyote sighting, not a biting, but a sighting. Now, I'm willing to give the coyotes the benefit of a doubt. These homes, these houses, these streets, they are encroaching on what used to be their territory. But does that give them reason to bite? And what should we do? I mean, now the Board of Health gets involved. If you've got a family pet, you're leery of letting your pet run even in your own backyard because coyotes can jump small fences. Foxes can jump small fences. Other animals can jump small fences. So what do? Go out and build a larger fence? This is a scary story. This woman, Kathy Normore, she says she's a licensed gun owner, and now she's going to take her gun when she goes out to get the mail. Don't blame her. I don't blame her at all. But this is what it's come down to. All right, so that story's out there. Did you at all hear about what happened up at a state penitentiary, I guess we would call it, in Lancaster? Video recorded by a surveillance camera at this facility watches as a corrections officer is doing his rounds, going by the different cells, and he gets toward the end of the cell, and he gets jumped from behind. He's getting attacked. He's getting stabbed by this guy. Inmate. As the story goes, as the video shows, another inmate joins in the fight about 6 seconds later, and a second officer rushes into the frame about 10 seconds after that, after the initial attack began. Then a third officer runs in and gets involved about 15 seconds later. One of the officers was stabbed 12 times in the back. Another was stabbed in the head. 3 others suffered assorted injuries during this incident. They had about 10 additional corrections officers run in to try to break up the melee that was taking place. This is an absolute case of where, at least in this particular instance, the inmates were trying to commandeer and run the asylum. And what does our governor say about all of this? Well, I'll tell you, because it's right here in the story that came out again, Channel 5. We need to do all that we can to support those who are working in the facilities and those who are incarcerated in the facilities, because we had another incident a few weeks ago involving an inmate. So we need to do all that we can to support those who are working in the facilities and those who are incarcerated in the facilities. So this wasn't the first incident. It won't be the last. There was another one just a few weeks ago involving an inmate. Governor Healy promises a full security review at the prison. We got problems. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. There are problems even within our own flock, so to speak. And that brings me to something that I saw in the Globe, and I also realized that, hey, this happened 2 years ago. I'll read as the Globe wrote it up, and then I will add my commentary, and you're more than welcome to do the same at 508-996-0500. The headline in the Globe, I believe, 3 days ago. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis flew 49 migrants to Martha's Vineyard in 2022. Many are still struggling to build a life here. So if you were wondering, where did they go? They're still here. And I don't think any of us should be surprised. If you made your way, who knows from where, you got across the border and you surrendered yourself. Look, you got papers. As temporary as they may be, you've got papers that say you're allowed to be in the United States right now, as long as you're lawful. The problem is, and it's a big problem, there are many problems. They cannot find gainful employment. And that's bad. Because you know, and I know, that there are employers out there that are looking to hire. But many of these 49, they don't have the paperwork that says, hey, we can go to work. And so, because they cannot go to work, they end up getting food stamps, SNAP benefits if you'd prefer. They end up with shelter. They end up with a clothing allowance. If they're in a hotel, motel type situation, they end up with a restaurant budget. All kinds of things going on. Their kids end up going to school. Speaking of that school, that Fall River story where 73% of students in 2019 were chronically absent. I wonder if folks that have come from a different country are put into that same, because if we go back to 2019, we certainly had at that particular time an immigration, a migrant situation where kids were going to the schools. So there's a lot to consider with that other story. I don't want to digress. I want to keep where we're going right now. So they're here, at least the 49 migrants that we've been talking about, and you and I both know that there are a lot more than 49 migrants here in Massachusetts. I don't see them leaving the state anytime soon, and that's not if Kamala any more than if Donald is elected president. Until they have their day in court, I think that we should at least allow them the opportunity to work so they're not such a burden on the taxpayer. They're not much of a burden, as much of a burden on the school system. They're paying for their housing. If you heard me with Barry yesterday, Barry was talking about how many businesses are getting subsidies to hire migrants. And that very well may be true. I would be very curious to figure out how that's happening. Because if these people are so-called fresh off the boat, then chances are they don't have paperwork in order to go to work. And it makes me wonder, where are we going to go with all of this? Again, I firmly believe that even if Donald Trump is reelected, or I shouldn't say reelected, but elected, and he takes office in 2021, he might try to come up with some scheme to get folks out of here. But I don't think it's going to work. Or it's not going to relieve enough of the tax dollar pressure. We're still going to be burdened with it. So the question is, since they are here, and they could easily be here for an additional 4 years if Donald Trump isn't elected in November and taking office, what do we do? And I think that we have to, if not the federal government, at least the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because that's where we are. We need to relieve the tax burden and the burden not only on the taxpayers, but on the schools. And if these families want to send their children to school, they need to be paying for it, whether it's through tax dollars or maybe being able to work and cough up a little extra change in order to send their kids to school. By the way, if you put yourself through college, if you paid for your college, did you find that since you were paying the money, that you put more of an effort to learn? It's interesting. I'm studying for my health insurance license, which I'll be taking, I believe, the end of this week. And I paid the money for that. And believe me, I am putting in the hours because I want to do well. It's a pass-fail type thing. But I still want to do well. I want to come out thinking, yeah, not only did I pass, but I aced it. That's because it's my money. And I felt the same way 3 weeks ago when I took the life insurance exam. It was my money, and I wanted to do well. It's amazing how when we put our dollars into something, we really try to make a go of it. And I believe whether they're Haitians or from the Dominican or Africa, wherever, France, Russia, Ukraine, Mexico, Venezuela, no matter where, they're here, and the U's and I's don't have the whereabouts to kick them out. Other immigrants have come to this country by whatever means necessary. And as we got into that second generation, the families have assimilated. This is foreign to many people. But especially if you are in New Bedford or within the vicinity of New Bedford, you have seen people come from Portugal and from Cape Verde. And that maybe the first generation, it was very difficult for them to assimilate, but they did. But their children really did. And by the time you get to that third generation, they're speaking English better than most of us that were born here in the United States. So I say it's time that we stop ponying up with our tax dollars and tell Bacon Hill lawmakers, tell our governor, they're here. Unless you know how you can kick them out and keep it legal in kicking them out, They need to be able to go out and work. Your thoughts, 508-996-0500. Yes, we're here, 508-996-0500. I'm hearing, and I think ABC News presented it at the top of the hour, or maybe it was at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, that President Trump, former President Trump, is considering going to Aurora, Colorado. There are so many mixed stories about Aurora and Springfield, Ohio. I don't know how this weighs for either candidate. I was just reading, and I believe the quotes that I'm reading, and they seem to cover both sides. When I say both sides, side A, fearful of the immigrants coming into town. Side B, welcoming to the immigrants coming into town. In Aurora, Colorado, they are debunking, they being the authorities. Now, I guess, do you believe the authorities? Or do you believe folks that aren't in authority about the gangs taking over the building and forcing the tenants to pay rent or kicking them out? I suppose the more you want to be on the Donald Trump side, the more you're inclined to be on the side that these immigrants, for lack of a better name, are being violent thugs. If you're on the Kamala Harris side, you're more apt to believe that it's just another one of those false stories out there. I wish we could get some of the real people from this housing development to pick up the phone call, 508-996-0500, and tell us what's going on. Is it true? Is it false? Do you feel scared? Are they really Venezuelan gang members? I'd like to know what the heck is going on. I'd like the truth. And while I would search if something was going on in New Bedford or Dartmouth or Fairhaven in the general vicinity, if I happened to be up in Boston, like I was for the thing that was going on at Emerson College with students getting arrested, that's one thing. I am not getting on a plane and flying out to Aurora, Colorado to check out this housing development. If you want to, or if you want to pay for the ticket, maybe I will. 508-996-0500. Hello. Brian?
Oh, I didn't hear you click the button. Sorry.
I'm not a button clicker.
Well, I've heard stories. Anyway, I think that there's also a report that he was going to go to Springfield, Ohio, which I'm talking about Trump.
Yes.
Which I don't necessarily think is the same thing as Aurora, but because it's more anecdotal stories that aren't really proven out, and so going there, to me is only making the narrative of that kind of just blows it up. It doesn't. There's nothing there to solve. There's nothing there to prove.
You're talking about Springfield.
Springfield, yeah. But I think that in Aurora, and this is where you're going to differ from me because I know you don't particularly like Trump, but Trump does go to places that are heart and soul to America, whether it's on the tarmac when people are coming back after being killed in war, or something like Aurora, where he's going out there because it is a national issue. And the national issue in Aurora is not Aurora. The issue is sanctuary states. And it's going to be an issue for Massachusetts because we're a sanctuary state. There's some places in the country, and you can look it up on the web, is, where are the sanctuary areas? So there's sanctuary cities, there's sanctuary counties, and then there's sanctuary states. And Massachusetts is one of the sanctuary states. So whatever you do as an illegal alien or as a migrant, however you want to term it, this is a place that you are safe to be in. And I would say that if you're creating crime, it's been shown in a lot of these sanctuary states, New York, and California, is that you're probably not going to get a bail. You're not going to have bail. So even in some of the,
you're not going to need bail. You mean?
You're not going to need it.
Yeah.
Even in the most dangerous crimes, they're being let back on the street. They're causing other crimes. So again, it's not the fact that people in general are creating crimes and not being charged or not having bail, but it's a special block of people that are treated differently than the rest of America under the same laws and the same umbrella of laws because the state has decided there's a sanctuary status. And I think that and again, Trump's going out there because less or so that there might be a gang and there might be, there was an incident at a couple of different apartment complexes, which are crimes and they could have happened by Americans too. I mean, it could have been American people that went in and tried to take over an apartment complex. But, to me, it's a law and order issue, and I think what Trump does.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. It is a law and order issue, and I want to bring that right back home here, because whether we are a sanctuary state or not, if a crime is committed and you go through the judicial process, you should be doing the time for your crime. And what I hear from you is that in California, and I think you also said New York, they're not doing that. In Massachusetts, I see the same thing happening, where you get 2 or 3 different goes at it before they decide, okay, well, I guess you're too dangerous to let them out. Shouldn't be like that. Well, you've got the immigration issue. That is its own separate being. But now you're here in our state and you're committing a crime, especially if you're committing it against another human being. We've got laws in the books for that, and that sanctuary status should have nothing whatsoever to do with that.
But you're right. But just take Massachusetts. A couple of years ago, you had a person held, and I can't remember what the crime was, but he had an ICE detainer placed on him while he was in court, and they were waiting for him outside of court, and the judge allowed him to escape, and then he created another crime, and then he went back into court. The fact is somebody else was harmed because the judge decided to make a political statement about skip the law and say, because this person is a migrant, illegal migrant, whatever they want to call him again, the judge decided to ignore the law and release the person out the back, and that person created another crime against another American. So the sanctuary status is allowing this fuzzy interpretation by law enforcement, by DAs, by judges to do what they want to do, not follow the law.
I would agree with you on that. Here's the thing. We are not a sanctuary state. We are de facto, but nobody voted it in. No lawmaker presented a bill. No governor signed off on it. So with that stated, there shouldn't be a blindness to the law. And so what's really sickening in this particular case, is the one that you just brought up, is that the judge, from what I understand, is back on the bench.
She's on the bench, yes.
So
about 2 months ago.
How does that happen I was going to say in the United States, but how does that happen in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? I know we're short on judges, but I mean, If they can commit a crime, then why can't you or I commit some kind of crime?
Let me leave you with this. So here's the ultimate in hypocrisy or dichotomy or whatever you want to call it. 410 days, you know what that is connected to?
410 days from today?
410. Today is 410 days that we've been in a state of emergency in the state of Massachusetts because of the migrant crisis. But we're still a sanctuary state. So in reality, if Trump gets into office and he employs Eisenhower II, which is to try to deport migrants, where are the migrants going to go? They're going to go to the sanctuary states. So this 410 days of state of emergency that started August 8th, 2023 is never going to go away, which gives the power, and I don't know what the power is under the emergency. Maybe Don from Stoughton can call in. That's more relevant, but I don't know what the power levels are for the governor, but it creates extra power for the governor to do what she wants to do. So we're, let's put that on the wall. How long is this state of emergency going to last? It may last forever because if more people come in and it's unchecked, certainly if Trump gets in office, people are going to rush into Massachusetts and sanctuary states. If Harris gets elected, she's not changing the border situation. She's lying to everybody right now. That's just part of the process for Democrat elected officials. So we'll see.
So you in listening to what you stated and digesting this. So Massachusetts, let's just say we have a law in the books that we are a sanctuary state. But Donald Trump somehow, maybe he can convince Congress, especially if he gets control of Congress, to say that there can't be any sanctuary states. Then what does Massachusetts do?
Well, it's going to stay in a state of emergency. I think that because of there's so many potential things, but you may bring up a good point is, I think what Trump had said on the campaign trail is that he wanted to get rid of sanctuary states or wanted them to not be in existence, and he was going to take federal dollars away, which is kind of a weird thing anyway, because you pay money that goes into the federal system, but you can't get it back. That's like, it's extortion, I guess, but I don't agree with that either. The money needs to go where it goes for a reason. But I don't know about you, but I don't think that my tax dollars should be going to folks coming into, I don't want my tax dollars going in a lot of directions, but I don't think that they should be going to people coming into our country illegally or legally for that matter. Well, it never used to be that way. That it wasn't the way in Ellis Island, because when you came to the States, you had a predetermined thing. You had to get a sponsor, which means somebody was here that was willing to take some responsibility for what you're doing and where you're going. You were supposed to have a job. There were a number of things that, you weren't required to speak English. You weren't required but
it was a given that eventually you would learn it.
Right. But everyone talks about that we're this melting pot, but we're really not a melting pot, because when people came in through Ellis Island, they moved into the boroughs of New York, and they moved into, the Italian section. They moved into the Polish section. They moved into the German section. People, and that's what the Haitians are doing in Ohio. They're moving, there's people that are Haitians that are in Ohio and Springfield, and they put the word out, hey, we're in Ohio and we're having a good life here, and more Haitians are going. Why wouldn't you?
Well, I think you'll find the same thing in Boston.
Sure, with the Irish.
I'm talking about the Haitians.
Oh, well, that's new.
Yeah. Oh, no, right. When I was working regularly in the city, we had a thriving Haitian community.
Right.
Yeah. And, I think that's the way that it is. People want to be around like-minded folk. And then eventually they branch out.
Right.
All right, man.
Right.
Nice call.
See you, man. Have a good weekend.
Talk to you later. Same. 508-996-0500. Hello.
Hi.
No, I'm not.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
So I love that caller. That's Steve. and he is phenomenal. And him and Dawn of Stoughton really have it. They know their stuff. So there was another thing that he didn't mention, and I think it was Steve that called Barry's show yesterday or the day before, that the state, well, she's given him $15,000 now to go back home. But here's the thing, like
you gotta be more specific. Who is she?
Maura Haley. Okay. I'm sorry.
Because there's a she that's the head of China.
Right. Trying to become a head of the dynasty, yes. But yeah, so Maura Haley is offering them $15,000 to go back home and stay in Venezuela, go here, go there, because with this 5-day thing, she's bouncing them around, and some of them are biting it. Some are saying, yes, I'll take it. But who's to say they're not going to come back in through the border and say,
ding,
boy,
ding,
let
ding.
me get another $15,000.
There you go. I would. I would.
Too. But it might not be implemented by then. So, but anyways, this is what they're being offered right now, present time. And another thing, I believe, like I was getting ready to say, Steve said that Venezuela doesn't, if Donald Trump deports he's not going to be able to do it because there's a law that the states, the countries rather, are saying we don't want them back. You can't bring them here. And now other countries are catching on to what Venezuela is doing. So there's going to be no place at some point where we won't be able to deport them, period. So this is
I agree with that. Here's my big problem. Mm-hmm. How are you going to try to round up all of these people in order to try to deport them and do it constitutionally?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they got a huge fish in that, and they'll just grab everybody.
Well, I mean, and that is a problem.
Put them on a fishing boat.
Because if they can do that to folks that they're saying they're not from this country, that turns around to say that they can also do that to you.
Right. Well, and I just real quick, maybe next weekend you can do some homework on this because I'm interested. You have more ways of knowing how to approach things than I. But yes, so they say within 22 years we are going to be the minority, and then they say 10 years, all Americans, like this, the white Americans.
Well, don't put me in that category.
No, I can't, Brian. You're lucky.
I was born lucky.
Oh, isn't that funny? I won't say anything. But so anyways, this is the report done by the government, whatever type of thing. Yeah, we'll be the minorities in 22 years.
I have asked folks.
10 years after that, we will all be the minority and seniors. And I thought, well, okay, everybody's, you're making love, you're having babies, people, yeah, because we're a very fluent, liquidy state. I mean, right? It's so
liquidy?
Well, yeah, I don't we blend well together. We do,
look, we are a salad. We are a mosaic.
Yes,
we some people keep their language, some people don't. People assimilate when they want to, but we blend well together in a salad bowl. We're not a melting pot where everything is just kind of and we're all homogenous.
Well, I think most people would say we are a melting pot.
Oh, that's what they do say, and I'm trying to tell you that is what we are not. Just because folks say it doesn't mean it's correct. Right. Unless I say it, of course.
But, right, Brian, everything's golden with you.
Naturally. That's why I'm lucky.
So I was wondering, maybe Steve will call in on Ken's show or maybe Monday or something, or John from Stoughton. I'd like to know what countries are now saying, no way can you deport them back here. So I'm just curious how many other countries.
Well, they can always do a Ron DeSantis if they say no. Just, give them a parachute. Woo! All right, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Have a great one. 508-996-0500 to get on to Brian's Beat. Hello.
Morning, Brian. How you doing today?
Brian is excellent. How are you?
Good. I've got a question for you because I've forgotten if I even knew the answer before. How did we become a shelter state? I'm not sure what the proper terminology is. How did that come about?
Well, we officially are not one.
Okay.
But we seem to act de facto like we are one. And it came about because our lawmakers just decided to let things go and we would fund X, Y, and Z, and we would let people come into the state as if we were a sanctuary state.
Sure. Now, was there a bill or law that had to be passed to do this by the representatives or whoever they were?
No, the only thing, as a previous caller stated, the only thing that we really have that is okaying, and it doesn't really okay it, but okaying what's going on is the fact that we are in a state of emergency, which allows the governor to turn around and pretty much do whatever she wants as far as placing the migrants in hotels and motels and wherever and affording them food stamps, etc.
Right. Well, that's what I was figuring, because it's not a pure legal faction that we are a sanctuary state, yet we can't say, okay, we're going to stop this now. It's as if we're breaking a law to do that. That's what I don't understand. If it's not like on the books or a true legal problem, why can't we just go, okay, forget it, we're not doing it anymore?
Sounds good. But we are in a situation here in the Commonwealth where if somebody is giving you money to house migrants and maybe you're at that brink of loss and that money will get you into the profit category, you're probably going to take the money. Same thing with food vendors and whatnot. There are a lot of people that work for government or pander to government that get these handouts. They're loving this.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true, too. That's what I was thinking. There had to be something like that because, let's say, if it's not a hard fact, why can't we just say, okay, we made a mistake, bye? But
well, I have proposed numerous times that we should get up a ballot question to decide if we want to be a sanctuary state or not. Look, it might get voted in, but I believe that there are a lot of people that don't want something like this, and I think the politicians are fearful to put that question on the ballot because they've got the control right now. They decide how much money is going to, they're, what was it, $750 million. That's the last figure that I heard that the state, Beacon Hill lawmakers afforded for sheltering migrants. And that's on top of the billions that have already been thrown out in that direction. So, I mean, this is it's a boondoggle for us, but it's a boon because people are looking to government to give more money, to make more housing available, etc.
I see. Well, Brian, thank you so much for helping me clear up on that because I would think I said, I don't ever remember voting on this.
No, you didn't. But I'll tell you what, I'm working with people to try to get it to the point that we do vote on this because it's becoming sickening.
Well, thank you, Brian, for doing a great job, and I hope that does come about, and my vote will be there.
Gotcha,
Have a
man.
good day, brother.
I appreciate it. You too. 508-996-0500 is how you get on to Brian's Beat today. I got to take a quick... That's me. So I mentioned that I am working with someone, an attorney. His name is Christopher Thrasher. You may have seen some of his signs. He's running for state rep as a Republican to take the seat vacated by Paul Schmid. If he gets that seat, he is the attorney that I would be trying to convince to come up with some type of voter referendum dealing with this whole thing, dealing with sanctuary statehood. Let's hear from you, 508-996-0500. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The reason why today there's so much confusion in all the governments of the world is because they don't submit themselves to the government of God, like Christ did as an example, and the apostles as well.
So Christ submitted himself. Is that what you're saying?
He did. He's the Word of God, and the Word is God.
Where did he end up?
In heaven, at the right hand of God, just as it was spoken in Psalm 110.
Well, maybe a lot of people don't want that trip to heaven as of yet.
Well, that's the thing, That's where there's freedom. I mean, like all these countries, America as well, they fight for freedom, but they're actually in bondage. Because then you go fight wars, you get killed, and where are you? You're in the grave, just as spoken in Isaiah chapter 66.
And are they free?
No. No, you're in prison.
Well, but they thought that they were fighting for the freedom of their country.
Exactly.
So they weren't.